One of the best ways to approach soloing over changing harmony and to have melody lines that flow naturally from one chord to the next is to use target notes. In this lesson I'm gonna go over how you can use target notes when you're improvising over 2-5-1 in the key of C. Using target notes when you're improvising is a really powerful tool because it allows you to choose in advance where you want to go with your solo. That means that you choose a note and then you play towards that, and you eliminate a solo where it sounds like you're just trying out some notes and that there's no direction in what you're playing, because you're always moving forward and you're always thinking ahead. Another good feature about this is that when you choose target notes, you can actually choose them so that they connect really well with the harmony, and you can really clearly hear that you want to bring something out, whether it be just a chord or a certain alteration or extension over that chord. In this lesson I'm going to take a 2-5-1 in the key of C, so this, D minor 7, G7 and C major 7, and I'm going to go over how you can choose some target notes that are really connected to these chords and what you need to improvise with it, and I'm going to make some lines to show you how you can make some lines that really move from one target note to the next. Since this progression is in the key of C, then a logical place to start is just to take a C major scale, because that's the scale where all these chords are found, and that's the key of this progression. So here's the C major scale. And in this C major scale, if I play the three arpeggios, so the D minor 7, the G7 and the C major, then you get this. So now we can start choosing the target notes, and of course we want to start with just using the arpeggio notes, because for each of the chords the arpeggios are just the notes of the chord, and then in that way we have something that's really connected to the chord. The next thing you can think about is that if you want to play something that's really clear and you can really hear the change, then it can be useful to take a target note that wasn't in the previous chord. In that way, if you play something, then you can really hear the chord change, and you can really hear in a clear way that now we're on a new chord. For the D minor 7 I have these target notes. So we have of course the whole arpeggios, that D, F, A and C. For all the chords goes that the root is not much of a target note because the bass is already playing it, and it's not going to give us a lot of information. Melodically, if you're playing something that's higher, and of course you're higher than the bass, then you want to play something else. So this is not a lot of information compared to this, and you can hear that this is quite close to the complete chord already. So that's the reason why I'm just going to say that root is not really much of a target note at all in a 2-5-1 progression. For the D minor 7 means that we then don't have the root, but we will have the third and the fifth, and then the seventh is not really handy on the 2 chord, mostly because it kind of wants to sound too much. It's the root of the key, so it wants to sound a little bit too much like a C chord, and it can be difficult without actually just playing the arpeggio to use that as a target note, and that leaves us with the third and the fifth. This goes for actually most chords when you're soloing, that the third and the fifth are sort of safe target notes that you can use. And for the G7, so we don't use the root, the G, but of course the third is a really good one, and so is the fifth. And in the case of the G7, the dominant chord, the seventh is so much more a part of the chord that that's an okay target note as well. On the C major 7, we have the root is out, the third is an E, that works, the G will work really well. The B, so the seventh, is possible to do, but it also almost sounds like if you land on that without any alterations and stuff like that, then it can sound like you didn't really resolve to the tonic, and it sounds like you stayed on the dominant. So for that I would say in the beginning leave it out, and then maybe make that one of the first extensions you want to try working on resolving to. Because all of these target notes are of course something that's something you can choose, and you can work on once you have the basic ones down, trying other ones, try to do extensions, try to do the 7th and the 9s or the alterations, and work with that, because that's where you start to really get something out of this approach, where you take the approach from the basic level and up to the level where you can use it to add really different colors and stuff like that. So the first example sounds like this. here the target notes that we have are, I start on an A, and then I move up to the B on the G7. And of course this is an example of where we have a target note on the G7 that's not on the, not a part of the D minor 7, which makes that a really strong target note. And the same goes for the target note we have on the C, because I resolved that to the third again, so that's the E. And the line is quite simple, it's just an F major triad, and then a scale one, and then using the same sort of idea, so I'm using the triad from the third of the chord, so there's a B diminished triad. I'm playing a slightly different pattern with it, but and then I skip up to the root of the chord, so the G, and then via the small scale one I resolve to the third of the C. The second example sounds like this. So here I'm using pretty much the same target notes as in the first example, but what you can also see with this is I'm using both the scale and the arpeggio. So for each of the chords and the lines, I'm sort of basing the line that I'm doing on each chord on the arpeggio. For instance, on the D minor 7 I just start with the D minor 7 arpeggio from the 5th, and then I'm running down via the scale to the root, and then again 2 arpeggio notes, and then I'm hitting the target note on the G7, which is of course the B in this case, and from that note I'm going down to the G and running down the scale there, where I hit the 5th, and from there I go up the arpeggio, and then via the F I resolve to the E on the C major 7. The third example sounds like this. So in this example I'm using some other target notes, so I'm of course starting on the A. I'm not sure if you can really talk about a target note on the D minor because I'm not really playing towards it, I'm just starting on it. But on the G7 I'm using the 5th, and that's also the note that I'm using on the C major, so the G and the C major. The line is sort of starting off with this sort of D minor pentatonic, or maybe you could also look at it as just a part of D minor 7 arpeggio with an added 11 here, which is of course also just a D minor pentatonic, but it's very closely related to the D minor because most of the notes are D minor arpeggio notes. And then I'm just running down the scale, and then on the C I go up to the 5th of the G, so that's the target note there, so we have the D here, and then I'm just playing the G major triad, and then up to the 7th, so we can actually get the whole arpeggio, and from there I skip up to the 9, run down the scale, and then resolve that to the 5th of C major 7, which is a G. The way you should probably work on this is probably to start with just moving from one chord to the next, and then spend some time not so much really improvising in time as just composing lines, or just slowly trying to come up with lines that move from, for instance, say you're playing D minor G7, and then just trying to come up with 10 lines on a D minor that will all logically end on a B, and see how you can do that. And try to build a repertoire of that, and do the same from the G7 to the C major, and in that way get that into your system and into your ears, and of course also your fingers. And once this gets easy and you can start to really improvise with it in time, then you can always start looking at adding extensions and alterations, because in that way you can really add a lot of different colors, and you have a lot of control over what colors you're going to put into your solo lines and what is really going to come out. Because you get used to hearing the important notes on the strong beats, which is something that's really going to help you spell out certain sounds, like altered dominants, or if you want to play with the diminished scale dominant or something like this. I hope that you can use the stuff that I went over in this lesson to get further in developing some nice moving lines that really flow from one chord to the next, and that you also get some control in really spelling out certain extensions or certain sounds and colors in the chords. At least that's what I've learned from target notes that I use really a lot. If you want to download a PDF of the examples that I went over here, then you can go to my website. In the article that accompanies this lesson, there's a download of all the examples as a PDF. When you're on my website, you can also subscribe to my newsletter. Then you stay up to date with whatever's going on. If you've never seen any of my videos before, I make a new lesson every Thursday, and I've been doing this for a little over 2 years, so I already have really a lot of lessons, and there's a lot of stuff to check out on my channel. So if you subscribe to my channel, then you'll stay up to date with new lessons, and you can also check out all the stuff that I already did. If you have any suggestions or ideas for topics that something I should do a lesson on, and something you want to hear more about, then leave a comment on the video or connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and Google+. So get a hold of me there, and I really do try to get back to everybody who asks me something. So feel free to ask questions, or feel free to drop in ideas for lessons. So that's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.